Hi guys, it's me. I know it's been a little while, long while, but life gets in the way and stuff. But we've got something I want to talk about, and it is something that I was originally going to write about, but I just couldn't get the words right, like written down. It just didn't look right, so I thought I would ramble it out instead. I've got my little thing here, so if I keep looking over or bringing whatever, then that's why. I've just got some little notes and stuff. So it's quite a good place actually. I mean, it's in the shot, but you guys can do it. There we go. Just the pink was annoying me. I could see the pink. Anyway, so I'm gonna put my, what's the American saying? Is the saying my 2 cents? I'm gonna put my 2 cents in about My Chemical Romance and the whole thing that happened recently. So if you don't know anything about My Chemical Romance, they're a band, an emo cult band, which I'll get to in a bit, but they're not an emo cult. I did that because people call them an emo cult band, but they're not. They're a band that started in 2001, soon after 9/11. There were a few members: Gerard Way, Frank Iero was a few months, I think, later, but I'm just going to count him in the same way. Frank Iero, I hope I'm saying that right. Ray Toro, Mikey Way, and Matt Pelser, I think it is. I'm not sure how to say his last name. I think it's Pelser, or Pelisa, or something like that, but I'm just going to call him Pelser, because that's just how I've always said it, and I don't know if it's right, but that's how I'm going to say it. Anyway, so they were formed not long after 9/11. Gerard Way was on a subway or a train or something to work as a comic book artist, saw the whole thing and was like, wow, I need to do something, and decided music was the way forward. So they started in 9/11. They started in 2001 and they broke up on March 22nd, 2013. But within that time frame, they had a lot go on, and they're known for their controversy sort of thing. I keep looking over there because I've got a wall of My Chemical Romance posters, because my bedroom is full of posters from like Kerrang and stuff, and before I got too many, I tried to put them in the little individual bits together. So I have an All Time Low bit I started, My Chemical Romance bit, a Pandora comic strip bit, and a Green Day bit. And then I started getting into more bands and posters of bands that I'd liked before, like Queen and stuff started coming out again. So it all got jumble jumbled. But because My Chemical Romance, I started with a giant poster that just all sort of managed to stay together. So I keep looking over there just to like look at their journey. But yeah, it's going to be too crazy if I move the camera around to show you. And it looks kind of stalkerish. It's not, I promise. I started that when I was like 16, maybe even younger. So it's not stalkerish, okay? I just haven't taken any of my posters down. There's bands I don't even listen to up here anymore, you know. But anyway, back to the point. So My Chemical Romance are known for their controversies and such. So I'm going to start with just going through them quickly. I'm not going to go over the whole stories and everything. But let me tell you what happened recently. So recently, they set out a video, and it's literally just a flag floating about like whoo, 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 and someone playing on piano Welcome to the Black Parade, which is an album they released 10 years ago ish, and that's the title song, obviously. And there was no other context to this video, literally just the flag and the music, and at the very end of it there was the date 23rd of September 2016. That's all that was on the video. They let their fans go crazy for a day, and then eventually they released sort of more information, but I don't think they wanted to release it that soon. So that's why I'm making this video, based on their controversies and such, because I feel like My Chemical Romance are one of those bands, once they hit the big time with I'm Not Okay, which is one of their most famous songs, I feel like they started to sort of take advantage of their fans a little bit. Like before that, they were relatively unknown, especially in the UK. Like, I'm Not Okay was basically their standout, get us known in the UK song, from what I can remember. I mean, I was at school at the time, 23 now, and I was like 7 or something when they first got known. Maybe even, I don't know. But anyway, I'm going off track, aren't I? This is why I needed to ramble it instead of write it down, because I kept putting things in places and I couldn't, wherever I put stuff it just didn't make sense. So I'm just going to ramble it and hope it makes sense eventually. So they're known within their sort of fan base for controversy and never giving answers. So the first controversy was Matt's leaving. Matt was the original drummer, one of the founders of the band, and he just sort of disappeared after the first album. There are claims and stuff that he started recording on the second album, and there are some people that say he didn't, and I've heard various things, and yeah, I'm not going to go completely into it, but stuff got said, but no one really knows what really happened. It's sort of a hush-hush, don't talk about this situation. It seems like, anyway. So people have always wanted to know what happened to Matt, and no one knows what happened to Matt. All we know, like in general, is one day Matt was there, next day Matt was gone. Poor Matt. I like Matt. I talk to Matt on Twitter sometimes. I mean, I don't talk to him as much anymore, but for a little while I interviewed him about his band at the time, Revenue, and he's a really cool guy. So I don't get why they just randomly kicked him out, to be honest. But I wasn't involved. I haven't heard an exact story because I never bothered delving into that. I was like, oh, I'm interested in your new band. I mean, I know you from My Chemical Romance, but I'm interested in your new band, and that's what I want to focus on in this interview, when I interviewed him for the pod. And you can probably find that somewhere on the website. And I'll try and put a link in the description for that, because it is, I mean, I didn't meet him in person, obviously, because he's in America and I'm in England, but I did do an email interview with him and found out a bit about him as a person, because most people just ask him about My Chemical Romance. But anyway, so we never got an answer about that. And then in 2008, I think it was, 2008, they were blamed by a UK paper called The Sun for starting an emo cult that resulted in a girl killing herself because she listened to their music and a few other bands in the sort of same genre, and her parents, I guess, and her friends and the press just were like, devil music. So that's another controversy they've been involved in. That's way too long to get into. You can probably find videos from the time, to be honest, on that. And then later on, I'm trying to find the date. I wrote the date somewhere, I think. In between the release, in between the recording of Danger Days, one of their last albums, the album with na 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 na, it's like 36 hours on it in the title. And Sing is another one you'll know from that album, because that was on Glee. So that reached a bigger audience. There was controversy about that as well, but I'm not getting into that because that controversy was mainly focused in America, so I don't know that much about it. All I know is it was sort of blown out of proportion. They were like, oh, this song's trying to represent this and this song's trying to represent that. They're getting school kids singing this and that, and I don't know anything about that really, so I'm not going to go into that. But during the recording of that, something happened with the drummer they got to replace Matt, called Bob Breyer. He's a ginger guy. He went from having short hair to long hair to looking moody, looking not moody. He was sort of the silent one. The drummers are normally the silent ones, aren't they, in bands? But anyway, Bob was the silent one. He didn't really talk, didn't really have much of a personality, it seems. So he left, and they never gave an explanation why. So there's been loads of fan theories, obviously because they've had no explanation about why Bob left. Danger Days was a very bright and colourful album, a sort of cartoon, sort of comic book based inspired. They wore bright, I'm looking at the outfits on one of the posters, they had bright colours. Mikey Way's got a red jacket and a yellow top. Ray Toro has, did I not mention Ray Toro in the beginning? Ray Toro is one of the original members. He has a black jacket with red sort of decoration on it. Gerard Way had stonewashed jeans, so grey jeans, and a bright blue jacket, and Frank Iero had a yellow t-shirt and a green body warmer sort of thing, we call them over here. That's in the picture I'm looking at anyway. And Gerard Way had bright red hair. Like bright red hair, the sort of red I want my hair to be. So it was a very bright and colourful album, and Bob was known for being moody, in the background, black clothing pretty much all the time. So there were theories going around at the time that he left on his own accord because he didn't like the direction the music was going in. Fair enough, if that's not what he wants to do, let him go in whatever direction he wants. A musician should be happy with what they're doing. I'm not a musician, but I just believe a musician should be happy with what they're doing. So he went, and we never got an answer for why he went. And then things just seemed to calm down for a little bit. And in I'm trying to find a date. I've wrote the date down. So Conventional Weapons was one of the album things, another controversy. That was hyped up as MCR5, their 5th album. And people obviously, when they hear, oh, new album, they assume a chunk of songs on one disc or vinyl or whatever, all together on one thing. And what it turned out to be, like, people thought this was whole new songs. And so yeah, they made it out to be brand new written songs from MCR5. And it turns out they were pre-recorded years ago, and just cast off, basically. It felt like they found them in a vault and were like, let's make some money out of this. Because there had been a gap between Danger Days and this album. So they released this Conventional Weapons, which they had hyped out to be MCR5. Conventional Weapons turned out to be 10 singles, and they released 2 together for 5 months, so it wasn't an album like it had been hyped out to be. It was like, oh, new songs in the summer, oh, new album. It wasn't a new album, it was 2 songs every month for 5 months. And it was songs that had been cast off and just like found from the vaults and like, oh, let's make some money out of this. So that's one of the reasons I feel like they just make money out of people. They knew people wanted a new album. They hyped it out to be a sort of new album, and it was not a new album. And I mean, don't get me wrong, the songs are alright. They didn't fit in with any of the albums that were going on, like, in the sort of time they said they were doing it. Like the cast off. But they're good songs, but it just feels like a bit of a rip-off, they tried to do bundles and this and that out of it, and it just, yeah. Anyway, not long after Conventional Weapons, this video is getting longer than I intended, not long after Conventional Weapons, which the last one was in the beginning of 2014, they announced that they were breaking up. Gerard Way put this whole big post on his Twitter about a bird and how he wasn't happy and how the band was done. There was no more My Chemical Romance. And then, not long after that, they released May Death Never Stop You, which was a greatest hits album, with one previously unreleased song, which was called Fake Your Death, which sort of became the title song, their "Or We're Going Away Now" song. Yay, greatest hits album. They never did the greatest hits albums people wanted. People wanted re-releases, remastered songs from the beginning, and we keep getting stuff from the end. But anyway, so they released conventional weapons and just basically went silent. That was the end. It was done. No more My Chemical Romance. And then they kept getting their social media hacked. I don't know who does their social media security, but they really needed to step up their game, and they still do, because they get hacked a lot. And there were lots of tweets going out. At one point, like, we're getting back together. This is going to happen, that's going to happen. Stay tuned for exciting news. And it turns out it was all a hack. But there are theories, again, lots of theories, that it was the band, you know, trying to regain interest so they could boost sales of the things that had previously been released, like conventional weapons, and, you know, get people to re-listen to their old music and rebuy stuff they may have lost. And so yeah, anyway, going back to what happened recently, they released this video that I mentioned with the Black Parade song and just the date. They let fans go wild for the whole day with theories and what's going to happen, what's this, what's that. And there were, I mean, to be fair, they did not say any of this was happening. But when you release a video with no context, people are going to jump to conclusions. 10th anniversary of one of their biggest albums. Maybe even the biggest album that they ever released. And people are going to jump to conclusions. People thought they were doing a reunion tour. People thought that they were getting back together. People thought this was happening. People thought that was happening. They let people get all excited for a whole day. And then they must have thought, well, we can't carry on with this. So they released a statement, and it basically said there were no plans for a reunion or a tour, only a release for the Black Parade album anniversary. A few days later, they announced it's a special 10th anniversary pack. It's going to include the original album, the original Black Parade album, plus 11 unreleased demos, rarities and songs from the Black Parade recording sessions. So there's live demos, there's rough cuts of songs and things like that. So there's 11 of those, and there's the original album, and they released the track list. I'm not going for the track list, but like, they released the 11 song new song track list. But they let people get extremely excited for a day. They saw how devastated people were when they broke up. I can't stop hiccuping. When they broke up, people were devastated. It was like when you hear about when Take That broke up, it was sort of like that. And they let people get so upset. And then they announced this thing that is happening. And, I mean, if you base this with how in the past they've never given people answers. I mean, I personally feel if you're in a band and you get to the big success where you're worldwide, you're touring all the time, blah blah blah, you have to be honest with your fans. So if someone leaves your band, you don't just say, we're not going to comment on this. You give them the reasons why. If it's because of personal issues, you go, well, sorry, you know, they weren't very well, or whatever. You know, they weren't well, someone in their family died and they took it really tough, they want to focus on other things, you know, you can't get around these things. Like, if the rumours are true about Bob leaving because he didn't like the direction the music was going, and you just say he wanted to focus on other things. You don't just go, we're not going to comment on this, just Bob has left the band. Same with Matt. I think, especially if someone's leaving, you owe them the respect, sort of like, because they keep getting hounded about it. And if people had the answers, they wouldn't hound the people. So I think you owe it to them to give them some privacy in the end, because if you don't, I mean, people will still hound them about it, but if you don't give answers, then they're going to get hounded a lot more than they would if you just went, look, they just didn't want to be here anymore. And so, yeah, they don't ever give people answers. They give this whole, oh, we care about you attitude, but they never give the answers. They let people get excited for things and then tear them down, and they're like, no, this is never going to happen. And they give people fake hope. They don't increase their social network security, so they let people hack, well, they don't let people, but you know, people hack into their accounts and get people hyped up. They need to step onto that more, because whenever that would happen, especially not long after they broke up, and it was like, oh, it's a hiatus, people would hack in, say, stay tuned, news coming, people would get excited, and then give it a week and they'd be like, oh, so I know we were hacked. They weren't keeping on top of it enough. I know the band weren't active anymore, but if you've got their social media active, you keep on top of it. You look at it. You delete things. You just keep on top of it. And they never gave people answers to anything. Sure, bands can have a journey. They can go so many different directions, but they went from so many different directions. I mean, the Black Parade was completely different to Danger Days, which is fair enough, you know. But it was such a completely different direction. I mean, sure, it worked, I think. But Danger Days was not the best album, let's be honest. In my personal opinion, anyway. And I think they went too far in a different direction. It seems like it was all one person's idea, kind of. And the way that they just had Gerard, the lead singer, release a statement over Twitter when they broke up, instead of on their website at first. Like, at first it was, oh, we broke up, no explanation. Gerard wrote this whole thing about why they broke up. But it should have been on the website in the first place. It shouldn't have just been, oh, sorry, we're no longer a band. It should have been, this is what happened. This is the story. You know, end of it. Just shush. But they didn't, and then it spirals out of control, and people just get crazy, and it's mental. So yeah, I just, like, are they just taking people for a ride by re-releasing this thing? I mean, people have asked for re-releases of albums, but not this album. People have asked for re-releases of older albums, remastered and stuff, and they're just releasing tracks that we know exist. We know they recorded a whole album before they deleted it all and did the Black Parade. We know that album existed. We know they weren't happy with it. So if they weren't happy with it then, why are they happy enough to release it now? That is me, over and out. That was so long. I'm so sorry. Anyway, that's my thoughts. I know it doesn't really make sense. I know I rambled a lot, but I tried. I hope this makes sense. And yeah. Let's see what money-making scheme they come up with next, shall we?